Daniel, it's a real pleasure again that you are taking your time for this interview with Radio Jack again. So I'm really, really happy. Thank you so, so much. It's a real
It is
pleasure.
it is no problem. It is the pleasure is all mine.
Thank you so much. So yeah, when we talked last time, it's like almost a year ago. So that was right after, your monthly releases, before heading into a new year, before heading into new concerts, festivals. Had the pleasure to see you at VGT and Amphi. So really great. And yeah, so how did it feel to get into the scenery again, like having the first gigs? So what were the emotions?
Fear, anxiety, stress, terror, um, basically just awful all around. Yeah, it's there's a lot of pressure, especially for gigs like Wave Gothic and Amphi. And after being away for so long, it's hard to sort of get back into the swing of things. And of course, I was performing with new musicians who I had never played with before, who ended up, of course, being fantastic. But it was, it was just another obstacle to overcome. So there was just so many difficulties involved with getting back into playing live. Not not only just those things, but the fact that I also suffer from terrible stage fright. So
Mhm.
in general, it was just a very long and arduous process to get back there. But once you're finally on the stage and performing with great musicians and for an enthusiastic crowd, it's all worth it. So
Yeah, you talked last time about your fear and about when you're performing live, but the crowd I think was all with you and the chaps playing with you. I mean, that was just awesome. So
yeah.
and uh, how did that go? So like, did you have? I mean, of course you had rehearsals before, right?
Yeah.
So how was the prep for all this then?
I think I might have mentioned it before, but if not, this is now a Radio Jack exclusive. I just found these guys in a group on Facebook for sort of musicians seeking musicians, and I posted in this group looking for musicians in Austria, hoping to find somebody near me. But of course, like the whole music scene is based in Vienna. I got a couple of responses. All of them were pretty terrible. People who, not even people who are bad musicians, but just people who are not like a fit for aesthetic perfection. I think I even listed in the sort of requirements, you should be between this age, you should be able to speak English, you should be well traveled, all of this kind of stuff. And I had people write me being like, look, I'm in my 60s, I don't speak a word of English, but I think I'm the right man for this job. And you're like, okay. Uh, but one of the responses was a young guitarist based out of Vienna, and we were gearing up to do video rehearsals, and then he dropped out at the last second, but said, "You know what? I know a guy who plays drums," and I was like, "Okay, this is going terrible." But really, about I want to say 24 hours later, I had WhatsApp messages from this drummer, and he had played Gods and Gold and Party Monster perfectly, and I was like, okay, well, at least maybe we have a drummer. And I write him, I'm like, hey man, you're great. Do you know any guitarists or keyboardists? He's like, I know a lot of guitarists, so let me just set up a meeting. And we met at a bar in Vienna, and like me and all these musicians, and it was just basically like, okay, I've watched. They had all sent me audition videos, and I'm like, well, okay, I watched all your videos, and it's gonna be you two. So it was very interesting experience. And then I contacted my friend Anya, and she runs this. She's got a fashion line in Berlin called why am I spacing on it? I've worked with her a million times. I'm gonna remember it. But either way, I had Anya do this. Instinct Berlin. There we go. I had Instinct Berlin fashion these masks for us specifically, and she just totally did an incredible job. So between the musicians and sort of the personas that we created for them, it ended up being awesome. But again, a lot of work, a lot of sort of sleepless nights. Like, is this going to happen? Is this not? I was driving to Vienna very regularly in order to practice and make sure everything was set up properly. And I remember the first show being in Vienna, and like these guys, these musicians, they were all like 25 years old, and they brought all their parents, being like, "Oh, we're gonna watch our kid play like one of his first like real big shows," and you're like, "What?" It was such a surreal experience. But yeah, Mike and Paul ended up being great musicians and now great friends.
But it really also on stage, it looked like not like that you got some musicians around and they're just playing the shows. It was like a union sort of like, right? So it was really amazing to see that.
Yeah, I mean, it after I think the first 2 or 3 shows, we realized that this worked, and we just had a good time with it.
Perfect. That's how it should be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, really happy about that. So how is then to be back at WGT?
I mean, Wave Gothic is sort of holds a special place in my heart. It is the first sort of Gothic festival that I ever attended. It is the first European show that I ever played, and I actually met my wife there. So there's just so many amazing memories with Wave Gothic Treffen that it's just always incredibly special to be there. And I always try to make sure that I'm there all 4 days and really just enjoying myself. And probably the best part about it was that I got to play on Friday, which meant
that's true.
Which meant that the rest of the festival was for partying, and there was no trying to take it easy for the days leading up to your show, because obviously if you're partying too hard, you're not going to be fit for the gig. So yeah, I got to have my show, got to headline a great venue. I think it was called Vespad, right? And
exactly,
yeah. So it was really an honor to be able to headline such a cool venue, such a big venue, and have it sort of, I guess, hit capacity. A lot of people wrote me and said they couldn't get in, so I feel bad for them, but I also feel kind of like, yeah, I'm cool, and and then there was so many other great bands performing that day, especially Horsk, who I absolutely adore, those French industrial band. So
yep,
it's great.
Cool. So yeah, it was a really great concert. So we really, really enjoyed it. I was the one of the guys, like second or third row.
Oh, okay. I see. Sometimes when you're on stage, you actually can't see beyond the first row because there's just lights in your eyes. Yeah,
that's true. So yeah, and then you went several other concerts, Amphi, etc., and then the story that you also already said last time started with the North American tour. Yeah. And also, I mean, I was always thinking, like, I mean, you also had, like, I think in between you had also like Corona, right? So you went over that, and then, yeah, sort of other things juggle around with, but then.
Yeah. Well, I caught Corona in Sweden at the last sort of festival of the year. So, we played in Gothenburg, and I remember before we went on stage, I felt kind of not great, but I was still able to sing and didn't have any problems. And I was like, it couldn't be Corona, because I'd only recently had my booster, and I've already had it as well. So I got it back in 2021. No, 2020. Wow, time flies. So yeah, I thought, nah, it can't be that. And then traveling the next day home, feeling progressively worse, getting home, taking a test, and having it be negative, being positive within just half a second. You're like, oh boy, here we go again. I got lucky. It was not too terrible. the second time around, and then then I had to get fit as quickly as possible to go on the I guess infamous North American tour.
Famous.
Infamous because it wasn't famous, nobody came, but
Yeah, of course.
yeah. So
So
that was definitely an adventure I don't wish to repeat anytime soon, but it is what it is. It's how how the music business works, right? It's just in this constant state of flux. So you just gotta deal with the ebb and flow and not take it personal.
so when you say that, what happened?
Nobody came. We sort of anticipated, right? Like that there would be some reduction in ticket sales, right? Because we understand that there's a recession. There was this sort of post-pandemic, for good reason, sort of insecurity. All those things we sort of had in the back of our mind, saying, okay, this is probably what we're going to be dealing with. Maybe 20 to 30%, like less ticket sales from our 2019 tour, which was just this massive success, like our biggest tour ever. And then we start getting out on the road, and we're like, there are less than 100 people here in New York. There are 30 people here in Baltimore. There are 70 people in Boston.
All right.
There are 104 people in Chicago in a room that holds 800 people, for a city that we typically sell 300 to 400 tickets for. So you got to also remember that after the pandemic, everything costs more. Crew costs more, vehicles cost more, gas costs more. So you're dealing with like a 30 to 40% increase in overhead costs, and then you are now challenged with, in some places, a 60 to 70% drop in attendance, and it's just it's another world right now, and a lot of bands are having this trouble as well, all over the world. It's not just North America. It's it's in Europe and the UK. So yeah, after this European tour, I'm not going to do it anymore.
Okay. Yeah, I think we come to that later.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't recognize, frankly spoken, that was such a struggle in the North American tour. So
I mean, we posted some photos on Instagram of like the reality versus sort of the way it can look from stage, right? Like sometimes you get a group photo, with the stage, and it looks like there's a lot of people there, and then we posted another one of it from behind, and there's like 25 people in Vancouver, right? And you're just, it's completely, you can't be mad about it. You have to sort of like laugh and take it with a grain of salt, but it, when you're in the middle of it, you're just like, this is crazy.
Yeah, that's really crazy. So, wow. But yeah, I mean, but in between you had other projects then, right? As well. So
I did?
You did, yeah.
Oh, what were they? I don't know. I'm so busy. I don't know what happened when. And if
so,
we're talking
okay,
about
meaning that even
stuff,
though it was like that, you were pretty busy.
Sorry?
You were pretty busy still, even though it was like that. So did you still do all the because you also said that you had a agency this time also, handling a lot around that. So was it still on your shoulders to do all the, like managerial stuff?
So they did all the booking. So they routed the tour and they booked the tour and negotiated everything, but I was the manager. So I rented the vehicle, I booked all the flights, I made sure, I planned all the drives and all of these types of things. So yeah, I was still like working as the tour manager on the ground.
As usual.
As usual.
Yeah. Okay. So and what were the challenges there? So any anecdotes or stories around that?
You know,
You always have stories, right?
it's funny because every time somebody asks me to tell them like an interesting story from the road, my mind just goes completely blank because when you're in the middle of it, it feels all completely normal. And nothing about what it is that you're doing feels strange or extreme or, you know, something that anybody would even care to hear about. It's very, very surreal. So, you know, when you're sitting around with everybody, you know, after the tour and or even in the middle of the tour and you're talking about, you know, what happened last week, you know, you're all eating your meal and oh yeah, so and so did X, Y, and Z. And then, you know, somebody else who's not on the tour overhears and is like, what? That is absolutely insane. And you're like, really? Like, I guess maybe, you know, shooting fireworks at people or um, you know, I can't even, I literally cannot muster up a single memory that's interesting. Of course, once we're done here, I will remember something that was hilarious that I could tell you, but you're always just on the spot and everything is so normalized that nothing ever comes to mind.
But what happened at this one show where you then also canceled?
Oh,
That was
yes.
pretty. That sounded pretty.
Right. Yeah.
Oh,
See, that didn't even come to mind at all. And I was thinking of another tour when Joey shot fireworks at the support band. He bought Roman candles somewhere down the road and was shooting the support band with it. And yeah, see, but for me, I was like, "What's Joe doing? Oh, he's shooting the band. He's shooting laser punk with the Roman candle. I don't know. I got to settle up with the promoter. I don't have time to think about this." So, you know, it's all very normalized when you're in the middle of it. But what happened in uh in San Francisco was pretty intense. Like I don't know how the situation has developed since then, but what I can tell you is that on Halloween night, which was just 3 or 4 days before we had played our show, the venue had a very large Halloween party,
Mhm.
and one of the patrons got insanely intoxicated and was asked to leave the venue. And when she was refusing to leave and security trying to forcibly remove her, she started attacking them.
Mhm.
And it ended with them dragging her out of the venue by force, like 3 or 4 security guards. And they ended up having to actually pin her down and hold her arms, I guess, across her torso to keep her from. She was scratching people's eyes, and it was all very, very violent and terrible. Now, um, what she did was she took a cell phone video that somebody had posted uh, or that somebody had recorded during the incident, just of her being restrained,
Mhm.
and they said, "Look at what this venue does to women. All I did was throw my cigarette, you know, butt on the street while I was outside smoking." And so the internet, being the internet, went into this giant uproar, like, "Oh my God, this club has brutal security who are attacking women, choking women, all this kind of stuff." And you know, even in the video, you can see she's not being choked, but this is the internet, right? So it became this enormous drama, and people were uh, 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 threatening
Mhm.
security, showing up at their house. People who worked at the venue were getting death threats. So there was a very serious security issue. And so for our show, they were like, "We have no staff, we have no security, nobody's willing to come in. And we don't know if there's going to be protests or anything like that." It was really, really bad. Now, this club, DNA Lounge, I've been working with them for over 20 years.
Mhm.
And, you know, they have, not only are they sort of just a great venue and with great staff, like they also are part of the LGBTQ community in
Mhm.
San Francisco, and they were a big part of it before, you know, it became sort of hip to do so, right? So when it was unpopular to support um, uh, these um, these groups of people,
Mm-hmm.
they were doing so. And so it just really rubbed me the wrong way to see this person sort of saying, "Oh, look at what they do to minorities. You know, I'm a woman and I'm being attacked by security." It's pretty insane. Now, of course, the security has footage of everything, and they released it and showed the whole world exactly
Mm-hmm.
what went down. That this woman was not forcibly held down because of throwing a cigarette on the street. You know, she was belligerent, intoxicated, attacking people, and it just escalated and got way out of hand. But we, for our part, just couldn't assume the
Mm-hmm.
risk of being there, not knowing what could potentially be coming. But again, like I said, it was a pity because I love this club. I love these people. They're incredibly supportive of everyone. Like I really love this club and the people who work there. So yeah, that's not a great anecdote. It's not a very like haha, oh my god, crazy
Mm,
anecdote.
yeah,
Very sort of, oh my god, that's terrible story. Uh, but yeah, that's 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 the nightclub industry, you know.
And any fun thing that happened during the tour you can remember?
No.
Too busy.
You know, it's very, very hard to sort of articulate to people
Mhm.
what it is like being on the road, especially when it's at the level that we are at. Like, you know, a lot of people have this sort of
Mm.
image in their head of touring bands sort of living this very luxurious rock star lifestyle when, you know, the reality is that you're you're sleeping in vehicles that are essentially at all times moving like the most turbulent airplane ride you've ever had. So when you're trying to sleep like this, you're just sometimes waking up in midair, and you know, you you don't have a proper toilet on those things. You're not getting properly fed anywhere. Sometimes the clubs are just like, here's $10, figure it out. Uh, it's it's a hard life, and it's a very mentally and emotionally difficult ride. So I, I I hate to say that while there were good times for sure, you know, my favorite thing is connecting with the other musicians, you know,
Mhm.
the tribe, the people that you're there with. Like that for me is one of the most sort of lasting and important parts of touring. But I feel like this this experience for me, it knocks something loose in my head, and I don't have a whole lot of positive things to say about it.
Okay. But you had fun times in Starbucks.
In Starbucks, did I? I don't know. Maybe I spent probably every single morning in Starbucks because they have a bathroom, coffee, and hot oatmeal
Right.
and internet.
Yeah, right. And internet.
Yeah.
So, but you also had like a side project during that time, right? So that's why you couldn't go directly back to Europe.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
The other incredibly stressful experience. Um, I can't talk too much about the nuts and bolts of what
Hmm.
went on, but just that there was a sort of last minute booking of Till Lindemann and his you know, new live band in Mexico City. I think what, like 2 or 3 weeks before the end of our tour,
Hmm.
and so we're sort of in the middle of our ride, and the phone call came in and said, hey, you know, you guys need to go to Mexico. And I actually didn't think that I was going to be a part of this, but when discussions about the crew were being had, um, Joe tried to convince me to be a part of that, and I said absolutely no way. I'll do what I can for you guys while I'm here on the road. And so I actually was working on this stuff for the show literally every free moment that I had. And yeah, a lot of people said it was impossible, to make this show happen. But somehow, after 3 weeks on the road, and then we had about a week in Mexico before the actual show, somehow we managed to pull it off, and it was absolutely great. And I was really, really honored to be a part of it. And of course, everybody's like, "Oh man, stay for the rest of the festival, hang out for a couple of days." And I was like, absolutely not. I got on the first flight home the next morning. And
Right.
and yeah, what I will say, I do have a kind of interesting anecdote. So this festival is massive, and basically any sort of alternative or rock band that you can imagine played there. There was like 120, 30 bands, and they were all big names. But Scorpions headlined, I think that the night Lindemann played or the night before. I can't remember.
Right.
But Scorpions played, right? It's the German band, and they were on my flight back to Frankfurt. And when they entered the terminal, to board the plane, because of course, they're getting like priority entrance and all this kind of stuff. I'm just sitting there and I hear just this like standing ovation in the terminal, and I'm like, what is going on? And I like peek my head up, and it's like Klaus Meine, and he's like, hi, waving to everybody, goodbye Mexico. And it was this very sort of almost like royal kind of goodbye, because I guess Scorpions are really, really beloved in Mexico. So that was an interesting sort of last kind of weird thing to happen after being on the road for 10 weeks.
Wow. Okay. So that was your meet with Scorpions then, primarily.
Yeah, I mean, literally just from I don't know, 10 meters away or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that sounds like loads of stress then in the end, right?
Yes.
So did you enjoy then the Mexico show, or?
It was interesting because I sort of assumed that my stage fright would not come into play for a show that I wasn't performing at.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I was part of the crew doing all this
Mm-hmm.
technical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working 14-hour days once I got to Mexico to make this show happen. And I remember thinking, as soon as the final rehearsal was done, that now my stress was over and I could just enjoy the next day. And what I found was that that day was the most stressful of all of them. You're running around like a chicken with its head cut off, trying to I'm trying to do jobs that aren't even mine, to make this show happen. People are like, Daniel, can you do X, Y, and Z? I'm like, yeah. Oh God. And so, you run around, you make it happen. And then when the intro is playing, I look at one of the guys that I was working most closely with, and I realized that my heart was beating out of my chest, like I was about to play the show myself. And
Really?
And I say to him, I'm like, dude, I'm nervous. Are you nervous? He's like, oh yeah, I'm always nervous. I'm like, even when it's not, because he had a band too. I was like, even when it's not your band, when it's not your show, he's like, yeah, man, I'm nervous every time. I'm like, so there's no escaping the stage fright? It's like, nope.
Okay.
So I was like, I'm cursed, man. But and the show ended up being perfect, and yeah, it was great. And like I said, I was really, really honored to be a part of it.
After you came back from Mexico, so there was like a couple of posts whatsoever, and then there was this one special post. And of course, we want to get into that topic, right? So it's about like, is Daniel really retiring? Of course, you're like, having your last headliner show. Maybe then playing festivals or on invite or whatever basis, but
oh no.
Okay.
So essentially, as we were discussing all of the work and everything
Mm-hmm.
that goes into making a show happen, even when it's not your own show,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I I started sort of looking at the climate of touring. Doesn't really make sense. I do believe that festivals are going to replace sort of smaller acts touring,
Mm-hmm.
because especially even in Germany, a lot of the rules are if you're going to play X festival, you
Mm-hmm.
can't play for 300 kilometers around it for half a year. And everybody will tell you that even if you do that within half a year, it will actually hurt your attendance at your
Mm-hmm.
headlining show. So this has been a situation for a very, very long time, but it's only now getting worse.
Mm-hmm.
And so, to be honest, um, I just don't think it's worth the effort anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's just too much work for too little reward or too little payoff, right? And I know that it sounds maybe crass to put it in that way, but you know, I have very limited time,
Mm-hmm.
and I've come to this point where if an opportunity is not hell yeah, then it's hell no.
Mm-hmm.
Because this whole year I had so many plans for singles and music videos and everything, and I look back at 2022, I did none of it.
Mm-hmm.
None of it. And I thought maybe, okay, I'll be out performing. My tour is going to do really well. It didn't. Uh, Playing all these big festivals, it's going to increase my profile. My
Mm-hmm.
streaming numbers just went down.
Mm-hmm.
So you just
Okay.
see this very clear indication that this path is not working.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it'll work for other people. Obviously, there's no single path that will work for every single artist, but I've come to realize that playing live is just not something that is working for me at the
Mm-hmm.
moment. So um, when you think about like, a festival show, if somebody's like, oh well, maybe you can do one or two of those a year, it's like, do you know how many weeks it takes to rehearse and prepare for one show? How many thousands and thousands of euros it costs for equipment and flights and all of this kind of stuff? Like, if I'm gonna sit in a room with people for 3 weeks working on performing live, I'm gonna do it for 30 or 40
Mm-hmm.
shows in a row because it's the same amount of work. So I've just kind of reached this place where it's like, I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to. I wouldn't even do the European tour if I hadn't already agreed to it. So it's not like,
Well, I'm happy about that.
and I know it sounds like terrible promotion for the tour where it's just like, hey, everybody, come to the tour I don't want to do. But it's it's not like that. But it's just realizing that I need to dedicate my time and energy creatively to the stuff that not only is good for me in a business way, but really from a creative standpoint, because all of this, like, this is why I do what I do, like, because um, playing live and doing social media and all that kind of stuff, even though it can be fun, it is not what like feeds my soul. This is being creative and being alone in this room and making something out of nothing.
Yeah, you
So
said that last time already, right? So,
okay, yeah.
but maybe even though it is that way, so when comes the point of enjoyment? So is that coming when you're on tour, that you're like feeling this part of real joy, performing before the audience? Because frankly spoken, when you're on stage, you're like I don't know how to explain it, right? So you're just present, you are there, and it's like it looks so easy, so fun actually what you're doing. So I mean, where's that point where the stress goes to joy, or
It's hard to say because there are times when
Mhm.
I'm there on stage, I'm in the moment, I'm enjoying it,
Hmm.
But there are also times when I am just sort of doing my job.
Hmm.
And it's good to know that I'm so good at my job that you don't actually know when I'm having fun and when I'm not.
Perfect answer.
um, and I really realize that this is not what people want to hear. I get it. Like and everybody I know in the industry thinks that I'm insane for
Hmm.
talking this openly about my complicated relationship with playing live, my difficulty touring. Like nobody ever wants you to say, hey, I had a bad tour, nobody came. It's always lie about it. Show
Hmm.
show them the funhouse mirror version of what you experienced so that they believe that it was larger than life and the greatest experience ever. And I just can't do that because I feel like I respect everybody, like all of you, too much to sort of lie so openly about these things. And I feel like as an artist, it's actually my duty to be honest about really everything that
Hmm.
goes on behind the scenes, because that's what makes the connection between all of us so
Hmm.
real. If you are just lying to the people who treasure what it is that you do, I feel like you are doing a disservice to them. So if I say openly and honestly, like, hey, this is difficult for me. This is, this tour was terrible. Um, I think that people will resonate with that and respect that more than if you were to just pretend like everything was perfect.
That's very true. But you're at different levels pretty open also. So I mean, also when looking back for, there are loads of, comments on, how streaming services are, etc. And you are sometimes also the one who says like, hey, this is like the income and stuff, right? So you're also in this case very open to, you know, on one hand, yeah, how the industry looks, we all know that, but on the other hand, also what it brings in the end, right? And this is
Mm.
like yeah, maybe the yeah, being just honest and open about things. So,
I think I think we've left the era where people want their public figures to be larger than life. I feel like when we were, I mean, I don't know how old you are, but when I was a teenager in the 90s, I saw music as an escape from reality. But I think the world has changed in such a way that people do use art and music as an escape, but not because they think that these people are living this luxurious, amazing existence. I think that they take comfort in knowing that even the artists that they admire are real
mhm,
people who go through similar experiences as them. It's the connection and the relatability
mhm.
that makes art so powerful right now.
So, so it's really like pretty deep stuff that you're saying, but it's really, really true what you're saying. Yeah.
I mean, this is the stuff that I lie awake
Yeah.
thinking about, right? Like, and I ask myself all the time, like, do I tell everybody all of this? Even though it's part of my, not persona, but like, I've always been this kind of open
Mhm.
and honest person, but even still, I question myself and I ask, is it right to go this far to really tell people this much? And I think that if I didn't do that, then I would be sort of betraying everything that I've been building for the last 20 years.
Right, exactly. But then, like looking ahead, so how does then life of Daniel look like?
Well, it's a good question. I think.
Wait a second, you were the plan who had the really, really, planning ahead. So every month a song, etc. So, now I'm asking you, so how does life look for Daniel? You're making a big decision, and then what's your plan?
Well, I really want to sort of take what I did in 2021 to the next level. So, obviously not write and release a song every single month, but I would really love to be able to release at least 4 singles with full music videos. So 4 times a year, quarterly. Like really sort of go all out with not just videos, but sort of ancillary content. Everything's about reels and YouTube shorts and all this kind of stuff. So just building enormous campaigns around, a small number of releases a year. And that's what I wanted to do last year, but I wasn't able to. And I have so many ideas. I have like 30 finished songs.
Really?
Yeah. But I just don't have the time to like properly finish them in the way where, like properly produce them, but like essentially 30 finished songs. And then I want to make music videos for them. And I want to, I want to do live streams, and I want to focus on all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, really just taking what I did in 2021 to the next level.
And when you did that, what happens then?
I don't know. We'll see. Well, I didn't know what was going to happen at the end of 2021.
That's true.
And here's the thing: if the world changes such that there's a massive demand for me to tour again, and it's like, oh, if you go on tour again, you'll sell out all these cities, and it will really make sense. Well, then I will do that, because I'm always open to change. I'm always open to going with the flow of the world. And I feel like that sort of current is taking me in this direction right now. And I feel that if I fight it, I'm just going to end up regretting it. And I've said, it multiple times throughout this sort of conversation that I've been having, on social media. I'm not saying never. I'm not saying I'm never, ever, ever going to play live again. But, you got to use sort of incendiary language, because it's the internet, and the internet likes a little bit of spiciness to it. So you got to be a little spicy online. But, when I'm having these conversations, I make sure to point out that I'm not saying never again. And look, if we get a great opportunity, if an enormous band says, hey, want to go on an arena tour with us? Well, yeah, of course I'm going to do that. If Wave Gothic Treffen says, hey, we're going to give you tens of thousands of euros to be the what is it called, the Mitternachtsspecial or whatever on Friday, you're like, okay, I'll at Agra. It's like, yeah, I'll do that. But I want to make sure that the decisions that I make going forward are serving me and really helping me make the best out of the time that I have, because I don't have that much left. I'm getting older.
Well, there's still some time left, right?
Well, yeah. But, when you start getting, close to 40, you start really that your mortality becomes much more apparent than when you were 20.
Am I really almost 20 years older than you?
I don't know. I was born in 1983.
75.
Okay. So it's 12 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
right.
Wait. Did I do the math wrong? No, it's only 8 years.
It's 8 years, yeah.
It's 8 years, see?
8.
Okay. 20 years, come on.
Yeah,
I was
right.
like,
so yeah, almost 40.
Man,
yeah, exactly.
Great
yeah.
for 60.
It's my math. I originally I'm a language scientist, so math is not really my
Ah, okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, cool. Um, so when we now look at the tour that is coming up, so anything we should expect? I mean, of course, you probably are going to play again like loads of new stuff, right? But is something new happening for the tour coming up?
Well, I th- I think we're gonna keep it relatively close to what we did in the
Hmm.
US because I'm so excited about the live band now.
Hmm.
Like, and it's funny, we spent, almost this last hour talking about how much I hate playing live, but when I think about, what Joey and Constance like bring to the show, and just the amount of pure energy and performance insanity that they bring to the table, it's just, I'm so excited about it because I'm so glad that everybody over here is going to get an opportunity to see it.
Hmm.
So, I try to be mindful of the fact that I am an entertainer. Of course I have a lot of new material, but I don't want to be that band that's like, all right, here's 10 new songs and then 2 hits and goodbye. It's I I understand that people are there to hear like the whole sort of
Hmm.
spectrum of aesthetic perfection. And so we do our best um to deliver that.
Hmm.
So I think that you can absolutely expect a sort of best of aesthetic perfection with essentially the best version of the live band that uh, you've ever seen or ever heard.
Very good. Looking forward to it.
Me too. Despite everything I just said, I am looking
Yeah.
forward to it.
So, with all the challenges around, right?
Luckily, I don't have to tour manage. I'm very glad about that.
That's very good. So yeah, but that sounds, on one hand, it sounds a little bit like, okay, so let's see what the future brings. But actually there are plans, like there are like, concepts, there are ideas what to do next. I mean, it's also like pretty amazing, if you want to go into like creative mode and, with all that stuff, videos and, storytelling whatsoever is around that. I mean, that's probably definitely something, everyone can look forward to, and the next tour, and then let's see what happens, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't think I can ever stop creating. Like, I have so many ideas. I have so many Google spreadsheets and songs full of, hard drives full of songs. And this is what I do. It's never going to stop. And so even if the way I present it to the world changes, there's always going to be stuff coming out of here. And I'm always going to try to keep it interesting and crazy and honest.
That's very good. Yeah, I mean, that's also, I mean, it's just the energy that you show, with all the circumstances around, and, also the challenges. I mean, it's just pure energy that you're showing. So really cool.
I do my best. I'm high energy. Yes.
That's true.
Uh, I'm overall like I'm really, really looking forward to the upcoming tour. I see it almost like it's it's freeing thinking that this might be, the last time I do this for a very, very long
Mhm.
time. And there's no more sort of worry about the future. There's no more like worry, are people going to come? I'm just kind of taking it all in stride, following the current. So I'm just going to go out there and try to have fun with my friends and you know the people who have been so graciously supporting me for the last 2 decades, and yeah, see what the future holds because I'm not running out of ideas anytime soon. So it's gonna be good.
Then thanks very much. So just awesome to talk to you, getting such insights actually, and really, I mean, it's really like these honest opinions, these, the thinking, like also the openness to talk about these things. It's just fantastic. So thanks a lot for that. Yeah, and for myself, I'm so looking forward to seeing you on your tour.
Awesome.
So I think lots of people as well. And yeah, I just hope that you also enjoyed then as much as everyone else.
Yeah. Well,
And
if I don't, you'll have no idea.
yeah, exactly. I know. Yeah. Yeah, but then we'll have a chat afterwards, and then maybe.
Okay. Then I'll tell you the truth. Okay.
Exactly. Cool. So thanks very much again for taking the time. So it's again such a pleasure, and yeah, so thank you. Really great.
Awesome. Well, it's always a pleasure talking to you, and we'll see you on the tour, and we'll do this again when I've got something cool to promote. Okay.
Cool. Perfect.
All right.
Let's do that. Okay, then have a good evening. And
you as well.
Cheers. Bye.
Ciao.